all these big name console games I've been reviewing lately, I wanted to take some time to play a PC exclusive that I've been hearing everyone talk about all over the internet. Released on January 25th by Arrowhead Game Studios and Paradox Interactive, Magicka gives PC gamers a truly wonderful fantasy puzzle-solving shoot-'em-up that's easy to learn and easy to master and should have you laughing from the second you start to the second you finish. While it has its obvious downfalls, I had a great time playing through this, so let's check it out. Here's Magicka.
A story of Dungeons and Dragons, of orcs and goblins, of ghouls and ghosts, of kings and quests, but most importantly, of wizards and vampires. Well, a story of wizards.
While there was an overall story in Magicka, I didn't really care what it was. There used to be a wizard named Grimnir who became so powerful that the Wizards of the Order of Magic imprisoned him on a peak known as World's End. Once he was imprisoned, monsters began showing up everywhere, messing everything up. You play as one of 4 nameless wizards, led by a vampire, or not a vampire, named Vlad, who are to go out into the world to protect the city of Havendir from an orc warlord. Initially, the story's a little dry, but things get a little more interesting along the way when you start to deal with time travel, dragons, and ancient demons. There's also loads of pop culture references from shows like Star Trek, Star Wars, and Monty Python and the Holy Grail that keep things funny, lighthearted, and entertaining.
Oder hjälp, je Vlad, null vampir, ni spatzen Havendir.
Ow, 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 ow. Oh! 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 I'm off the cliff!
Magicka's 13 levels took me about 9.5 hours to beat on my first playthrough in single player, and let me tell you, these levels are hard as shit. When I played through again with a few friends, we were able to beat them in half that time. It's not that I knew the encounters, but rather that the gameplay is greatly simplified with some other players, assuming you all know how to revive each other in the heat of battle. What makes the game great though is that most of the deaths don't actually come from the monsters and bosses, they come from the hilarious hijinks of the other players. There are 2 game modes, both playable solo or online with some friends. The adventure mode is your standard linear campaign, and the challenge mode is an arena-style game type that puts you and your friends up against wave after wave of increasingly challenging encounters. While Magicka is really a great time, it's plagued with some pretty serious bugs. In fact, this is probably the buggiest game I've ever played. I was automatically alt-tabbed out of the game many times that resulted in a death, and many other times the game crashed completely, forcing me to start entire levels over. Some bosses are even able to be bugged out to trivialize their difficulty, including one of the final ones that should have been really challenging. While playing online, it was a crapshoot as to whether or not we could even keep a game running long enough to complete a single level. Now, the developers are patching these issues daily, but there are so many of them that you literally have to have a list of do's and don'ts in front of you while you play just to avoid a crash.
Now we're gonna find out who gets it.
Look how fucking big it is.
Oh shit.
Ah, look at this shit.
So, while the game has a lot of technical problems and the story is pretty lighthearted and simple, the really important aspect is how much damned fun it is to play. This game is all about combining a series of 8 elements together to create what seems like an infinite number of spells to go about solving puzzles and defeating monsters. You have water, life, shield, cold, lightning, arcane, earth, and fire to combine to create some pretty dazzling effects. Elements like fire and water cancel each other out, or may be combined to create steam, which may then be combined with other elements to create new spells. If there's a river in front of you, simply cast cold on the water to walk over it, or combine lightning and fire to teleport across. You can cast all spells on single enemies, on yourself, on your weapon, or as an area of effect attack. Seriously, I could play this all day and continue to come up with new ways to cast spells and decimate my foes. As I said earlier, what makes the game fun is when you add friends into the mix and you're all trying to stay alive long enough to kill everything on the screen and move on to the next area. If one wizard is casting an arcane lightning bolt at an enemy, and another wizard crosses that stream with some life energy as he's healing another friend, you've got a massive explosion that will blow up both parties. Combine that with the melee and ranged enemies beating the crap out of you, and all the AoE abilities from you and your friends, and you've got mass hysteria. Each wizard has their own staff and a melee weapon. You'll find additional staves and weapons along the way that gives you passive buffs and activated abilities like invisibility and the ability to summon a creature to fight for you. There are even some cool weapons like the Master Sword from the Zelda games or a freaking M60. It's too bad you don't have an inventory screen to collect and swap out the different weapons at will though. I think the only thing I was disappointed with as far as gameplay was concerned was the lack of puzzles that you need to think to solve, as the tutorial really leads you to believe that the game was more about puzzles than combat. I love this cartoony and colorful style of graphics. It reminds me most of World of Warcraft, but I spent so many years of my life wasting away at that bastard that I'd better feel some kind of attachment to it when I see similar elements in other games. Beyond the cartoony look and feel, there aren't any CGI cutscenes or anything. You just got simple graphics with great particle and spell effects. The soundtrack is top notch and the voice actors are absolutely hilarious. Minus the English voice acting by Vlad in the intros to each of the levels, all of the remainder of the dialogue is Swedish, I think. To me, that's what actually made a lot of the acting funny. I don't mean to sound derogatory, but some of the stuff they say sounds damned funny.
Wow, tjena G! Jag Revner, jag skapar neder!
I'm not gonna lie, this game is buggy as shit. To be honest, I can't believe the game was actually released in its current state. Regardless, for only $10, this is one of the most fun games I've played in a long time. I can't remember the last time I've had that good of a laugh. If you can get past the bugs and figure out what not to do to make the game crash, and you've got some friends you can play with, this is certainly a game you should look into. The hundreds of spell combinations alone were enough to keep me entertained through my single-player campaign, but once I got online, man, it was freaking hilarious. Who else has played this? What's the funniest shit you've encountered? Leave your questions and comments below. Check out the full write-up and screenshots over at ZeitgeistGameReview.com. Stay up to date by following me on Twitter and Facebook, and make sure to check out all of the other great gaming entertainment on the Game Station. Don't forget to subscribe and press the thumbs up button. Thanks for watching.